My name is Danielle Fletcher.
And tell me a little about yourself.
I'm 20 years old. My birthday is March 27th. So I'm super excited because I'll be 21 soon. What else can I say about myself? Well, I've lived overseas for a very long time. The majority of my life has been spent overseas. And I haven't lived in one place without moving for about 4 years. So.
And where are some of the places that you've lived?
I lived in Nicaragua, Ecuador, and Ukraine. And in each of those countries, we've visited a bunch of other countries around that area. So when we lived in Ecuador, we visited Peru. We didn't go to Colombia because Ecuador and Peru were not on good terms when we were there. But we went to Peru and Chile. And in Nicaragua, we went to Honduras and a couple other places. I was really young. Mm-hmm. And in Ukraine, we visited basically all of Europe because there was a train that you could take from Ukraine that went all the way down to Greece and Italy. And we were like, why not?
Okay, and so what were the circumstances that led you to living in all of these different places?
My mother works in foreign service, so she works for USAID. And her job took us everywhere. And USAID is very different from basically normal State Department in the sense that normal State Department can go in any country there's an embassy, but USAID usually works in countries that are developing or need a little extra help. And so my mom's job is to go into those countries, depending on what her position is. Currently, she's been mission director of the Dominican Republic for the past couple of years. But basically, she goes in and tries to help. She figures out what the main problems are of each country, like maybe they don't have access to clean water, or maybe they don't have good electricity, or something like that. And she goes in and tries to think of local ways to fix those problems.
Okay. And so you've been to all these places. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me, if you can remember, I know you said you were young, specifically, what do you remember about, for example, Ukraine?
Ukraine was fun. We lived there from when I was about 6 years old to 8 years old. And I remember the architecture a lot in Ukraine. Ukraine was very different from the other countries that we visited because usually we live in Latin American countries. But I love Europe. I always have. And the architecture, I think, is really, really beautiful in Ukraine, despite the fact that it was made relatively recently. It looks really old. And they have these beautiful churches. I remember, we lived in Kiev, and so, these beautiful Orthodox churches that had golden domes, and they were just so pretty. And I remember the botanical gardens, which you could only visit about 2 months out of the year because otherwise it's freezing in Ukraine. But the botanical gardens were really, really pretty. And, you'd walk through, there's no path or anything, but there were tons and tons of lilacs. I remember really, really loving that smell. I still love that smell. And there was a street that you could go on that every weekend, without fail, would sell random shit. It was like a souvenir thing, but it was out in the open, and it was like an open-air market, except it was just one really, really long street. And they sold all of these really cool souvenirs. I think we still have a couple of them. And it was really nice. And the people that the people my mom worked with were really nice. And it was just a really cool place to live. I remember really, really loving Ukraine. My school was really cool, too.
Oh, so you went to school there?
Mm-hmm. Every country that we've gone to has an international school. Usually 1 or 2 international schools, but usually all of the State Department kids will go to one. And my sister and I went to Pechersk International School, or Pechersk School International, because they changed it when we were there because the initials were PIS. And they were like, we can't do that. So it was changed to PSI. And I thought that was really cool. It was a small school. In first grade, when I came in, there were 3 kids in my class, so we had to combine first and second grade. But But, you know, there were really, really wonderful teachers there. I went to my second grade teacher's wedding as a flower girl, and it was just, there was a lot of closeness. It felt a lot like a family.